show. But here we go. All right. Let's see what we got here now. We were just in the process of doing a little house cleaning. We covered the email. We reaching for the moon. Cash App if you want to support. Since we wasted so much time, we gotta dive in, you know what I mean? So let me cut this, you know what I'm saying? It's just time to dive in. That's just where we at right now. Anyway, before the interruption, we were about to discuss the parties, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, independent. That's one hand. Two, there is a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of things going on in what they call culture, the music, the rap, the 90s. We have grandchildren out here. We're trying to process other scores. You got some freaking out about what's going on in Washington and this particular president, which I must say, he's something cut from a different cloth of the presidency, wouldn't you say? But we'll come back to that. Some people I don't know, like they be having a nervous breakdown or something. Like pull yourself together. You know how many presidents and situations our people done been through. Just relax. The Democratic side of it, I thought it was only right that I throw it up there because it, like most things, have a birthday. It has a birthday, a beginning, like a star, or like you, or your mom, or your dad. Monday, you wasn't there. Tuesday, something happened. Wednesday, you in existence. You understand? The Democratic Party, that political party, it arose on or about the 1820s, give or take. They had to at least talk about it for a minute, right? And it says from a split in the Democratic Republic Party, there was a particular president that I even heard the current president mention at one time or another. I know I have my personal feelings about this particular president, and that's Andrew Jackson. My issue comes from deep rooted in my Johnson side. From my father's father fight right here in Florida. Over near Opalaka, Ocala, Seminole people. Mhm. Florida used to be a free state. Everybody didn't have to go up north to get free. A lot of people just crossed right over these little rivers and little marsh areas, came right into Florida, and you were free. long history on that for another day. The Democratic Party, though, is what we're discussing on this Friday night. Okay. Andrew Jackson, they claim, was the first president elected from the Democratic Party. Now, if not careful, and because it has a unique history to it, you would almost be confused. You may look at yourself in the mirror and say, well, how in the world can I and Andrew Jackson both be a part of the same party? They had some other Democratic presidents that was elected before the Civil War. Your boy Martin Van Buren, James K. Polk, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan. He has a descendant that came into play, I think back in the late 70s, early 80s, the Buchanan family. Another story for another day. Anyway, and then they go into a little brief layout of what the Democratic Party stood for, some of the principles they stand on. They claim now that that party generally opposed the national bank, high protective tariffs. Got those in the news. That word is in the news, right? Tariffs. Yeah. They didn't want nobody interfering with slavery. They wanted to leave the status quo as it was, leave the slaves alone. They're slaves, leave them there. Federal aid for internal improvement in the nation. They didn't want to fix those roads and everything. Everything was fine. Because you have to understand, the South was beautiful. Huh? Oh, I won't let nobody just talk about the South. Oh no. The game, it all started in the South, right? It was beautiful. The works was done. Nice land, beautiful, any season. They didn't want no god doggone federal aid. But they said, well, they figured that if they got federal aid, they'll be telling them what to do with it. And they didn't want that. Hint, hint. They go on to say that all measures that the Whig, that's another party, we'll cover that another day, came to favor. They claimed that the Democrats' greatest strength was the farmer, laborers, and the people of the frontier. People of the frontier are the people that was going west of the Mississippi River. That comes up later after 1820. My point is, the part where they didn't want any interference with slavery, and you're yet a Democrat, I understand that there are people, trust me, I understand the switcheroo. You feel me? I understand the switcheroo. Nevertheless, there are people that are still inside the Democratic Party that's still operating under the same status quo. You follow? Okay. They figure that this right here should never have applied in the first place. The current president said something pretty interesting to me. I don't know, maybe it's been a month and a half now. Maybe I spoke on it, maybe I didn't. But it was powerful. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think in my day and time that I would actually hear the president of these United States would explain very quick, briefly, but it flowed, that the 14th Amendment of the United States belongs to American descendants of slavery only. It was never meant for later an affirmative action, DEI. No, those are the only two that come in my mind right this second. I'm sure there's some more. The 14th Amendment was for one group of people and one group of people only. There was no argument there. There was no other people. The Cooley period comes later. When you hear them say the Cooley period, they're basically talking about the Asians, the Chinese coming over in their uh, productivity in building the rail system here. The Cooley period. 14th Amendment, though, on the other hand, was for that group of people that built the nation, the slaves. Um, and I'm trying to choose my words very wisely. It's a very, very deep subject, but I do not understand why that's so hard for people to comprehend. There was never at any moment midgets, people that wear glasses, pimples. I don't know whether I'm a boy or girl. Um, I'm upside down. I think I'm an animal. All these people, all these groups, all these other things coming through and breathing air of the 14th Amendment when it itself was for one group of people. I'll never. You really need to. We really need to do something about that. Um, your argument, and with him saying it out of his mouth, point blank, sua sponte, on its face, that man said that. Said a little bit more too, but I'll save that for another day. I will align it with this. The 14th Amendment was for one group of people, one group of people only. That's not hard to understand. So whether you're in the Democratic Party, Republican Party, I don't know where the NAACP is at, where the Black Caucus is at on this. You don't really have any brother or sister per se that's able to pound on this a little bit. Actually, it needs to be pounded on a lot. It's important. It's really just that important in this political atmosphere in the United States of America. I'm not knocking nobody else that claims to be black. I don't even like for our own. Well, look, you at the barbecue playing dominoes, hanging out. I don't, it don't bother me. But when we're center stage, you're in the legal court system, you in the political playground and you have people running around saying, but the black people, see, because I'm black. See, black people, black, you little liars. You know, why don't we be, what? What's the one that don't just lock them up on sight? I'm black. You're not black. I don't understand why, and I have to give it to the third grade teachers. They do their job. They do teach about verbs, nouns, adverbs, and adjectives, and a lot more. I want to focus on the adjective. Black. It's an adjective. What does it do? It modifies or slash and describes a noun. That's what an adjective does. That's what it do. In law, most seriously, I don't care whether they tell you on. I'm telling you, you are civilly dead when it comes down to the eyes of the law. It's called civil litter mortuus. You have what you need right up on that screen, that 14th Amendment. 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. They're all important. I do wish someone would be strong enough to put the 13th Amendment with the 20 sections up there, but it was ratified. I don't know what the issue is, but then again, because I know them, I've seen them. Moreover, I might have misspoke. I think I do understand why some people would have a problem with that. 14th Amendment. Just for us. Us only. No disrespect, no lost in love. But the truth is, a Haitian can go back to Haiti. A Nigerian can go back to Nigeria. A Jamaican can go back to Jamaica. One of the islands, St. Lucia's, they can go back home. They're here from Angola. Their mom and dad was born in Angola. They can go home. That's where their grandparents, their cousins are at. That's where their people are buried at. That's home for them. Well, this is home for us. This is actually home for us. We have nowhere to go. No nation would dare accept us. They can't. For we are bound to this continent. I know that kind of like is hard to swallow because of the way the African slave trade was explained in stories and Alex Haley and the movie Roots, and there's a bunch of other things that's in there. Only thing I can say is use your common intellect. How would Harriet Tubman, child of a slave of slaves, here have any idea how to lead people from the South to as far as Canada to their freedom? How would she know? How would she know where to go? She didn't have a GPS. I know for a fact she didn't put no flyers in mailboxes and see who will and who will not help. That's not how that go. How did Joe look when you talking to the people from Alabama, Mississippi, the Carolinas? How did your people, if they were from Africa the whole time, they got shipped over here, their cousins and aunties and uncles, family, friends, almost imagine mom and dad them at the card game, and you're a child and you're in the bed and they're in there playing cards, and they decide to take the kids and round you up and bring you down here to the Gulf and put you on some boats and ship you away. You know what I'm saying? Make a deal for you, for your head. Make a deal for you. There are some people that teach, they were tricked into it. No, I don't teach that none. I don't teach that none came from Africa. I teach the vast majority of you were already here. That's why your great grandparents knew which berries to eat, which ones not to eat. They knew where the fishing holes were at, the wells, up in all the little crossways, pathways, teaching the colonists how to move around and move about. My goodness, you have neighborhoods and communities that are under lakes. Your people moved around. Other than that, you'll have a hard time explaining to me you was put on a boat by uncle and them, brung across the Atlantic. There's no data on how much fresh water they had aboard, food, for what could be a 30, 40-day journey. And water's not like wood, it sloshes. So you would have had to have a lot of fresh water. Come over, undock, sell, mom going to Mississippi, dad's going to Georgia, Junior's going to Tennessee, and little baby sis, well, she's going to stay right there in South Carolina. All right. So now you're sold from Africa here, sold plantation. And we all know, we've all heard it before, it's in our psyche. We can recite it in our sleep. A slave worked from sun up to sundown. A slave worked from sun up to sundown. And yet you're going to try to sell me the story that somewhere in between times they were able to find out where the wells were at, teaching them people which berries to eat and not to eat, when they were in season, when they were out of season. These people have you looking across the Atlantic for home. Meanwhile, you're doing all of that while you're standing on home. It does baffle me to have a conversation with some brothers and sisters about an Egypt, Ethiopia, Mesopotamia, now river civilization, the Igbos, the Yorubas, and the Fulani, the House of Fulanis up in the north. Those are Nigerians. That's how they break down into that's three. They have a bunch, but their three major groups are the Yorubas, the Igbo, and the House of Fulani. Yet they're all Nigerian, yet those three groups float three different ways. Anyhow, you're here. Your people's bones are buried here. their blood is still scorched into the ground. But yet, you kind of grab a hold of people that have you looking over your family, trying to look across seas for home. It baffles me. But it's no problem. It's not a problem. Not for me, it's not. We're going to take that up and take that on. You were already here. You're owed reparations. If Haiti was to reverse that reparation and France was paying reparations to Haiti, you, whether you were born in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, anywhere in the 13 colonies, up north, down south, us, are not entitled to one dime of that business. That's theirs. Reparations in the 14th Amendment belongs to us. The sooner we get that together, the faster we can get some other things going on. Because look, I don't like to say this because they're not into hip hop. Hip hop, rap, drill, they're all three different things. But they kind of have this all up under our culture umbrella. Well, if you take a step back and look under the culture, the ones, people like to really look up to, rappers, the athletes, listen, there's a stain going across because you cannot, in one hand, say you're for our people, and then in the other hand, you're the main one doing harm up against your people. They don't, light and dark both cannot occupy the same space at the same time. It can't happen. That's no cap. Well, you have to apply that all the way across the board. Reparations is something that's going to be for you. You can pretend all you want on you. You're probably good at it by now. You've been doing it so long. And this little guilt thing that we have about being under the institution of slavery, and then we broke out. You don't whoop some. Yeah. It's a lot of things they don't teach you in school. But if you look a little closer, it's there. Just like that slaves work from sun up to sundown. What's the other thing they said? They said if you want to hide something from a Negro, where do you put it? No cap. Where do you put it? In a book. It's in a book. You got some of these 50 years old dudes still thinking we uh, we gang. What? What? There is something I am proud of us on though. There is something that I want to say to you before I go that I am proud, and it is evidence. It is evidence that we are not that separated as people be claiming we are. If somebody was to ask me the question, well, what do you mean, Kay? I mean, as people are looking at what's going on in Washington between the president, his homie, the billionaire, and there are groups of European Americans that were under the impression that when he took office, there was this horrific thing he's supposed to have been doing to black people. The American Negro. He's coming to fill in the blank. I mean, goodness gracious. So I said, wait a minute. We're not that far apart because the smart ones, if they're able to see that what's going on right this particular moment don't have nothing to do with us. They tried to put you under DEI. I wasn't letting that happen. I dared y'all. Don't y'all dare sign. Why don't you dare sign up for that junk? You ain't no DEI. You an American. Full-blooded. Full-blooded American. You ain't no DEI. But everybody has came to the conclusion that we are next, which that is evidence that right now ain't nobody on our ass. No more than the usual. The usual. You know what that is. The usual. Right? I'll tell you something else too. I don't know how many of you that may hear this video hung around long enough to hear it all, that proclaim, saying you came from the streets, you came from the hood. Some of you capping. I really, really, really came from that. But that's another story for another day. The point I want to make is you cannot clap and cheer when y'all were tearing down their statue. I put up a post and said, hey, leave them folks' statues alone. Most of you don't even know what state the first bullet, the first thing fired off in the Civil War. Not really. Walk right by them statues. Don't even think anything of it. That goes for, because the Americans now, they like to do the color thing. That goes for the blacks or the whites. You have a small selective crew of the old school. Okay, that might be their heritage, their uncle, their cousin, and whatnot from their Civil War that they had with their own brothers, claiming that we were the subject when we wasn't. We had to make ourselves relevant. That's what happened. We made ourselves relevant, but that's another history that, you know what I'm saying? The point is, you were laughing and clapping, tearing down them folks' statues. Now, I don't know what hood you come from. I don't know what your religious aspect is. But you do to others that you don't want them to do to you. You clap when they was tearing down their statue. Now they're going to tear down some of your statue. Don't change nothing. American history is American history. Thank goodness to the web and internet. There's been a lot from a lot of different angles. All of us have little pieces of the puzzle of our history here. But you got to stand on something, though. Or when it comes back around, don't say nothing. Just take it. Like, don't say nothing. But that goes for the ones that was chumping up with me earlier about them stats. Oh, they're gonna tear down Johnny Rest. They're gonna tear down. They're gonna erase our history. Ain't nobody gonna erase our history. I'm here. I know our history. You're here. You know our history. I strongly suggest a lot of you, while you still have a little time, you got some old folks that's up in their 80s and 90s. You might want to go have a conversation with them. Take them something they like. Don't be in a hurry. Sit down, record it, make notes, take notes. Because that day is going to come where we're actually going to have to stand on exactly who we are. I think that's all. I think I'll leave it there for the evening. The 14th Amendment. That subject came out of that man's mouth. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to say nothing. That other candidate said off rip she wasn't doing nothing for just no black people, and swung her hair around when she did so. And then when she got to the end of the Democratic convention, you know what I'm saying? Remember, we went over this earlier. You know what she said? She didn't say anything about y'all were saying she was black. She did not. She said she was brown. You don't believe me? Go look. And we'll just leave it there. Until the next time, or the next day, we'll do it again. Think about the babies. Keep them chilled. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got some of the fam swung through. Good to see you. Good to see you. I don't know. I see that I'm going to have to move that around. Okay, I'll take care of that later. But no, seriously. Don't get too deep in that culture stuff that's going on out there. Who telling, who not telling. Listen. Stop hurting one another. It's kind of hard to do this work in one breath. Meanwhile, your people are thinking it's so cool and cute for you to run them up against your own people. You make yourself look like a fool as a nation of people. Not Americans. I'm talking about Americans, the ones that are the descendants and was under the institution of slavery. I strongly suggest you practice something that the Jews practice. Right now, they are working on their next Holocaust movie. Yes, they are. They're working on it. And when they finish with that one, they're going to advertise it. And while they're advertising, they're working on the next one. Meanwhile, American Descendants of Slavery, the American Negro, they on some, I don't want to see no more slave movie. I want to see somebody breaking down some bricks, some women running around with hardly no clothes on, us pointing guns at each other, and then no matter what happens, who gets hurt, if some, not even the family, we're not going to tell anybody, we're not going to say anything, as long as it's